The entire universe is composed of an unknowable variety of rates of vibration. We understand everything to be in motion down to the subatomic level, vibrating at various rates. The source of creation, infinite in itself, yet one being or concept, desired to know itself, to experience itself. This initiated a process of creation which materialized infinitely into the concept of form. Really, infinity is one single thing. If we look at a light prism, for example, and we see white light passing through this prism, thus creating a rainbow, we may look at this rainbow as one single thing. Now, one infinite thing experiencing itself would of course manifest in the form of a virtually never-ending manifestation. Our entire universe is basically a several trillion-year-old eternal hologram. The physical universe exists as a mirror to the energetic forces which exist as the other side of the coin that we call reality. All of this is, of course, fractals of the source of this creation. We may call this entire universe one infinite, unknowable being. Not a thing, but a living being. Now, if we look at the rates of vibration which compose the wider areas of our reality, they have within them their own sub-rates of vibration, and so on and so forth. It's like a piano with a piano inside one of its individual keys. And in one of those individual keys, and that second piano, there is another piano. And that goes on, so on and so forth. This is how we eventually arrive at our planet, Earth, and its frequency, that being known as the Schumann resonance. This frequency is of course an expression of that original light and is connected to it. It is it. Like how the color red is an element of white light. It is a face of the creation, much like you and I are by nature. Now, later on, you get some individuals who hold a philosophy of separation. They think it possible and fruitful to separate themselves entirely from the rainbow, no longer identifying as an element of white light, and be in their own individual concept in separation from unity. They attempt to abandon the harmonious synchronicities of frequency altogether and attempt a philosophy of unfeeling absolute control. Control, or selfishness, is a disassociation or alienation from spirit. And this is on a different level from being mean or angry or in a bad mood. This is a real philosophy of apathy, an almost robotic idea of totally controlling oneself and all others. To feel anything is to be weak. Just as those of us who are positive attempt to align with the light and embody unconditional love, some aspire towards this exact opposite ideal. You could call it falsehood made real, and of course it may be considered a complete paradox, to be honest. Now, fear, on the other hand, is simply an effective means to control, nothing more. Those of us who are afraid happily give up our own sovereignty if it means survival. This makes it an extremely effective tool for those who desire to control the entire universe. Did you know that if fear did not exist on this planet, it would, as a virtue of its own existence, become a utopia? Automatically? This is because we would all be on the Schumann frequency. We'd be in total alignment with nature and create in cooperation with all other elements and beings around us, in perfect harmony and perfect synchronicity. Just as the plants and animals do. They can't manifest anything outside of their frequency, as they have no self-awareness and are thus virtually articulations of nature. And this is why nature is so self-sufficient. It's an environment of complete co-creation. It's one thing articulating itself. This is the kind of Edenic world that existed before the so-called serpent came in and introduced a philosophy which deviated from that light, from that one thing. This has made an impression on humanity. Now we have the freedom and awareness of that outside of unity. This introduced humanity to absolute freedom. Freedom to destroy the world, burn trees down, murder each other, steal, exploit each other. But we still have the ability to love, to care, and show kindness. This is an absolute expression of freedom, not seen on many other planets in our universe. Some see this as a dystopian hell. Others see it as a magnificent opportunity for experience. This kind of environment is actually perfectly allowable from the perspective of our intergalactic observers, as very little dynamic experience or freedom actually comes with those Edenic conditions of absolute and complete harmony. The issue is that freedom, that absolute freedom, was later exploited by opportunists who thought, oh hey, they can be manipulated to not only deviate from that unity-based Earth frequency, but can be effectively controlled if I indoctrinate them into a frequency of fear. So how these beings work is that once they separate themselves from being included in the synchronistic system of love and vibration, they then have the option of attempting to create their own personal synchronistic system, their own matrix, their own cosmic machine, or to put it another way, an economy. Obviously, they don't have the power of God, which runs through all of us, so they can't manifest a universe using infinite energy. They can't maintain a universe using infinite wisdom. So they take God's manifestations and attempt to trick them into joining into their matrix of separation. This is done through threats, manipulations, or fear, basically. Now what we're left with is, instead of a co-creative universe of synchronicity, we have an uncreative universe of slaves, with them positioned at the top as a god. This is controlled by them and their own subjective and very limited wisdom, or apathy. And it's no wonder we now live in a world of endless violence and confusion. This is what is happening to our planet. In fact, it's been happening to our planet for several thousand years. There's an alternate matrix to the Schumann resonance, which we're being brainwashed into tuning into and following, And this effectively enslaves us into a system which serves no function aside from exploiting and using you as a means to acquire more power and to feed the delusion of godhood. This is how you control 7 billion people. It's not via force, it's not via gunpoint. That's impossible. It's by manipulating the frequency they adopt and thus arrest their capacity for sovereignty and creativity. This alternate frequency has been referenced by various people, such as David Icke, who called it the prison matrix, or Magenta Pixie, a channeler, who called it the black box program. While on this frequency of fear, we're effectively creating within the boundaries and to the benefit of those who are perpetuating and controlling this frequency. There's many instruments and techniques around today which are designed to energetically manipulate your frequency in order to do this. I'm sure we have a few guesses as to what those are, but I'm not going to take you all too far down the rabbit hole. But one example we can give is the news. Just watch the news for 30 minutes. Just watch Al Jazeera for 30 minutes and see how you feel afterwards. Now we have to remember, though, that creation operates under a premise of free will. Someone cannot forcibly control you and force you to switch or change frequencies or anything like that. That's impossible. This is why the brainwashing is extremely important, as it convinces you to surrender your own sovereignty. Do you feel free? Do you feel as if anything is possible? No, you probably don't. You probably feel trapped in your circumstance. You probably don't think there are many creative possibilities at all. So you settle for an experience which is basically that of survival, whilst contributing to a system built on and maintained through fear. Now, this is all a choice. I mean, we can all return to the Schumann resonance, to that resonance of unity, whenever we want. We are all free. Sovereignty of all beings was designed into the cosmic template as set out by the source of all things. All of this fear is merely a choice. Now, sadly, our collective consciousness has freely opted to maintain and sit within this system of fear. However, the planet is ascending. It's ascending itself into the fourth density, or the fifth dimension, where this frequency of fear actually does not or cannot exist. This is because the planet will more intensely incorporate the love-based Schumann resonance into its expression of itself, and thus all of its offspring, including the future humans. These future humans will be heart-center-based species, and we're seeing that transition slowly happening. It's impossible to feel fear whilst vibrating in that higher range. Really, we don't need a protest or a revolution. If we all simply switch frequencies, the world would realign itself in cooperation with the will of the collective. However, until that day comes, do what you can in your own small but vital reality. Be free, as it inspires others to do the same. We'll, of course, get into the ways and kind of strategies that can be used to take control of your sovereignty, or take back your sovereignty, in our next video. Peace and love. Thank you.